Hello, my name is Michael Purnell, and I'll be going over the dangers of DWI or DUI. I'm a member in Group 2. First, I'd like to start things off by showing a brief video.
Minnesota Police Department. Sir, have you been drinking tonight? Yes, but I've only had 2 beers. Sir, go ahead and step out of the car.
What? I was just going around the corner.
You right over there for me?
But it's my birthday, like you can't do this to me.
I need you to just turn around. No. Turn around, put your hands behind your back. Turn around, put your hands behind your back. Don't you know who I am?
There's no excuses to drive intoxicated. You drink, you drive, you go to jail.
If you paid attention to the video, there was 4 different individuals being arrested for DWI in the span of 40 minutes on the same day of the same night. The shocking trend that is being replicated across the state, and we have to find a way to put an end to it. The purpose of this video is to persuade lawmakers and to reshape the way that we deal with DWI and DUI offenses. Driving under the influence in Texas are the highest in their nation when regarding arrests. Solutions to this problem can be achieved through general education, partnerships with private companies, and increasing the penalties for first-time and repeat offenses, either financially or with increased incarceration times. Our credibility is established through the extensive research on reliable sources, allowing us to discuss the solutions for DUI and DWI arrests in Texas. The reality that we live in is that in 2013, we had almost 1,400 fatalities involving a drunk driver, which makes us dead last, the worst in the United States. 40% of all traffic deaths in Texas involved a drunk driver. 25,000 crashes involving in blood alcohol content of 0.01 or higher, and almost 100,000 DWI arrests, resulting in about 71,000 convictions. We cannot arrest our way out of this problem. The responsibility has to come from the individual who makes a conscious decision to drive while drunk or to call a designated driver. We have to change the stigma around buzzed or drunk driving. It can destroy lives and ruin families. Our outline and agenda, as I went over the introduction, there will go over the general education, partnership with private entities, and lastly, we'll go over harsher penalties and other solutions. Up next, I'll be followed by Selena, who will go over the general education.
Thank you, Michael. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the background or the general information. Alcohol is a depressant that slows down the functions in the central nervous system, which affects the cognitive and psychomotor skills. Allowing us to speak to a younger age group, we can decrease the chances of a drinking and driving incident. For kids and adolescents, we can talk about the effects it will have on a person, like the family history of alcoholism, drinking, driving that is dangerous, and drinking underage is illegal, which can cause a DUI or a DWI. So if you've been charged with a DUI, you will be prosecuted. Basically, you'll get a loss of your license for 1 year. You would have to enter probation and also an alcohol abuse program, and you can also get terminated from your employment. So things that parents can do is kind of tell them not to drink in a household or set rules for them. They can not allow their kids to go to parties where they know that they are serving alcohol, and they can take away their keys if they have a car, or they can basically tell them, hey, don't get in a car ride with somebody that's been drinking. Mothers Against Drunk Driving is an organization that had a goal to reach out about reducing the drunk driving traffic fatalities and to raise public disapproval of drunk driving. The rates on drinking and driving has dropped dramatically with them because they have pushed so much information that not many people knew about. Some disapproving counter arguments would be peer pressure. Around this age group kids are normally in, they will find it easier to say yes just because they want to avoid bullying, or they're trying to fit in a certain crowd. And even though they might know that the answer for that is to say no, they will still say yes. Parents can be a cause also, because if they're allowing their kids to drink at home, it's just going to be like an easier access for kids to kids drink illegally at that. And then also getting charged with a DUI or a DWI, most of the time people can make bond, and it's only about 10% that you have to pay. Um, and after that you can just make payment arrangements from what you owe. And basically the restrictions that they give you, they're only temporary, so after a while, you know, you can do the same thing. It's just that after that you're probably gonna get like higher penalties or anything like that. Thank you. Next will be Soon Jin with utilizing services provided by private companies.
Thank you, Selena. So sometimes people might not have a set designated drivers to take them back home when they're drunk. But thankfully, there are many useful services that they can use to get home safely without having to take a huge risk of drunk driving. The first option would be to use a public transportation. They are relatively cheap, safe, easily accessible, and they're exceedingly safer than drunk driving. We can further decrease the rate of DUI by using phone applications such as Uber and Lyft, which allows people to find local drivers to take them back home. But if they are afraid of their cars getting towed by next morning, then they can also use an app called SteerClear, which offers driver teams to take them and their cars back home safely. There is also a drunk driving service in which the designated drivers use either of the two methods to take the clients back home. The first method, the team lift approach, is exactly same as how the steer clear designated drivers work. The second method, for the scooter approach, the designated driver use portable scooters to whenever they're done driving the clients back home. So these are some of the services that people should take advantage and use since they're so useful, easily accessible, and much safer than drunk driving. So some people might think or argue that there is a higher chance of crime in public transportation, but actually, according to the FBI data, people riding transit are less likely to be victimized than the car passenger or driver or the owners. And types of property theft that the transit riders usually encounter usually incur much less than having the car get stolen or vandalized. And while the phone application services can get a little pricey, it is still much cheaper and safer than getting your cars repaired or possible jail time. And regarding drunk driving service, it is true that it's not available everywhere yet, but with more awareness and usage, it should be available soon to everyone. Next, Whitney will discuss the third solutions to further decrease the rate of DUI. Thank you.
Thank you, Soojin. Another solution we believe will help decrease the amount of DUI arrests are through harsher penalties. Did you know that more than 300,000 people each day drive drunk, yet only 3,200 are arrested? And about 1/3 of all drivers arrested or convicted of drunk driving are repeat offenders. So what can we do to decrease the amount of people driving drunk each day? And what can prevent offenders from becoming repeat offenders? We believe the answer lies within jail time for first-time offenders, higher fines, and ignition interlock for first-time offenders. Arizona is known as one of the toughest states with DUI laws. As you can see, in Arizona, DUI first-time offender will look at 30 days jail time, $4,700 worth of fines, and the ignition interlock is mandatory. For Texas, jail time is only 72 hours and $3,000 worth of fines, and the ignition interlock is mandatory only if the alcohol level is greater than 0.15%. Putting that into perspective, per 100,000 capita, Arizona sees less drunk driving fatalities, alcohol-related crash injuries, and alcohol-related crashes. Arizona has seen a decrease in DUI arrests since they cracked down on their DUI laws. Enacting harsher penalties through a deterrence theory model, we believe that jail time will act as a general deterrence by keeping people from wanting to commit the crime, and increasing fines will act as a general and specific deterrence because high costs will keep offenders from wanting to commit the offense again. Ignition interlock for first-time offenders will act as a specific deterrence because offenders won't want to commit the offense again as well. One may say that jail time would be too costly for taxpayers. Yes, that may be true, but 1/3 of all drivers are repeat offenders, so obviously something is not being done correctly to prevent this from happening. One may argue that higher fines won't affect the wealthy. Yes, but the wealthy only stay wealthy by not spending absurd amounts of money on things they don't need or want. And lastly, one may argue that the ignition interlock is already a penalty for first-time offenders in the state of Texas. Yes, but it is only if drivers who have an alcohol level of 0.15 or higher.
My name is Kelsey and I will be delivering our conclusion. In this speech, we have discussed why it is important to be educated about drinking and driving, why we should utilize services provided by private companies, and why we should have harsher penalties to reduce drinking and driving. College and drinking goes hand in hand depending on which crowd you are in, and sometimes it may seem that drinking and driving isn't that big of a deal. I hope that in the process of discussing this topic, we have convinced you that drinking and driving is no small offense and it should not be taken lightly. Remember kids, drive hammered, get slammered. Thank you for listening.